Pirate Adamson here. So I have a treasure map that I have been given, and I need to go find the treasure. So let me open this up and look at my map. Wait a minute. I don't know how to read this. So there's a picture of a tree and a house, and I know I got to get to the X, but I don't know how to read this. I better pay attention to Mrs. Adamson so I know how to read a map. So I want to get to the treasure. Hey guys, Mrs. Adamson here. Today we are going to explore maps a little bit more. And as you could tell, I really don't know how to read a map just yet. So my pirate friend wanted to get to the treasure, but they have no clue how to read this map. So we are going to learn how to read a map, and the different parts of a map is what we're going to explore today. Because of course you want to find the treasure. So we are going to take a look at different parts of a map. Now, every single map can be something totally different. Some maps will tell you information about houses. Some maps will tell you information about the world. Some maps will be simply just maps about the United States or the continents or the ocean. There are all different types of map, but what's cool about every single map is each one is going to have a title, so you always know what kind of map you are looking at. So if I go through my atlas here, this is titled Canada. If I flip through the next one, this one is titled United States. This one is titled United States, and it's also the population of the United States. Okay. So every single map is going to have a different title based on the purpose of the map. And you can find all sorts of maps in something called an atlas, okay? Every single map that you look at is going to have something called a compass rose. A compass rose has all of our main directions located on it. We talked briefly about the directions earlier this week about north, east, south, and west. And I told you to remember, never eat soggy waffles. Those are called the cardinal directions, just like the Cardinal baseball team. Okay, then in between those cardinal directions, you have intermediate directions, which are northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest. We will learn more about the directions tomorrow when you do an activity over the compass rose. So a compass rose is going to be on every single map. Every single map is going to have a title, and every single map is going to be different based on the purpose of that map. So the map that you have in front of you is a map, it looks like, of a street, of a town. So if you look, each town has a different name of their streets. So it looks like you have Peach Avenue, Apple Lane, but then you have all these different pictures that are put on here. Well, if you look on the map and you're like, I have no clue what each of these things mean, all maps have some sort of map key, and that tells you what is on the map. They're kind of like symbols, kind of like your emojis. So a happy face emoji would mean that you're happy. So a school emoji or a school symbol would look like a little schoolhouse, and that would mean there is a school located on the corner of Pine Street and kind of the curve of Cherry Street. If you saw a cross, like an X, this is kind of a first aid cross sign. That would mean that there's a hospital located here. So all of these little symbols represent something on this map. And if you don't know what that means, you would refer to the map key, which is down here. Okay, we're going to learn more about some of these other things in just a few slides. So the scale right here, we'll talk about what that means, okay? And then here's your compass rose, and it's just a reminder that north is up, east is this way, south is down, okay? If you don't remember your little saying, never eat soggy waffles, okay? So these symbols are pictures on a map that I talked about that they show for something in the real world. Maps use symbols to show many things in a small space. Okay, so if I did a map of my classroom, it would be kind of tiny on a piece of paper, or even a map of your house. It would be tiny on a piece of paper, and we would have to do symbols to show maybe your room or your mom's room. So look back at my map here, this treasure map that the pirate was trying to figure out. So if I looked at these symbols, this would probably be a symbol. Oops, I'm doing it backwards. This would be a symbol for maybe my house. And then in my map key, I would put that this is my house. Maybe this tree has some sort of special meaning. Maybe this is a tree that we have to go to that has a tree house. So in my map key, I would put tree house. Maybe it's the magic tree house from those books, okay? So I'm going to work on my map key while I continue reading. So the map key shows what symbols on the map mean. The key is usually in a box in the bottom corner of the map. Mountains may be marked with little triangles. A blue line might represent a road or a river. The key shows a small picture of each symbol used on the map, along with the meaning of each symbol. So let's take a look at these symbols on this map key. So you have a mountain, and most typically, these maps do use triangles like that to represent mountains. And if you even feel on a globe, it's always raised up to represent the mountains, okay? Rivers are typically lines that are blue. Capitals, if it has a star with it, that means it is a capital. It's a capital city, okay? So our capital city for Illinois, I wonder if you guys know that. Write that on your teacher's Google Classroom what the capital of Illinois is. I'm curious to see what you guys think before we teach about the capitals. A city is often identified with a dot. A town, they open up the dot. A highway always has like this crown looking thing like Highway 5, Highway 255. Railroads have a line and they kind of look like stitches going across. An X is represented as an airport, and then a circle is often a national park. So lots of symbols can be found on all sorts of types of maps, but a lot of the maps use very similar symbols. That way people don't get confused, and that way once you learn how to read one map, you're able to read any map. And if you go to the zoo or if you go to a place in St. Louis, they often have maps there, and you have to look at the map key to figure out like where are the monkey exhibit, where is the snake house, okay? So you have to use a map not only when you go to places in different states, different countries, but if you visit a place you've never been, a map can really come in handy. Even at the mall, they have maps too. So we're going to look at paragraph 3 now. To fit a big place on a map, everything must be drawn smaller than it is in real life. Obviously, my tree right here is not really this size, or the house. So what means it has to be scaled down? When scaling down a map, every part of the map is scaled by the same amount. The map scale will show you the distance between two locations on the map. It compares the distance to real life. Most maps use a scale where 1 inch is a certain number of miles in the real world. So for example, on a map of New York City, the scale might be 1 inch equals 5 miles. In other words, to get from one place to the other, that is 1 inch apart on the map, you would really go 5 miles. On a world map, 1 inch might equal 500 miles or more. So on my map here, maybe I say every single little inch is going to be, let's say an inch on my map is going to be 1 mile, okay? So these little lines that I just drew represent an inch, okay? So from this house to this tree, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 inches in between there. So each of those really are not just an inch. Each of those represent a mile. So instead of it being 1, 2, 3, 4 inches, each of these are a mile. So it would be 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles to get to that tree in real life. And that is called a scale. Okay, so let's say I drew this, but on my scale, the scale said that each of those, so 1 inch equals 3 miles. Okay, let's look at that one. So every 1 inch on this map scale equals 3 miles. So I have 4 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's not just 4 miles because each of these inches marks represent 3 miles. So I would do 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, and I would get, let's see, 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. That looks 3, 6, 9, 12 if I do my song. So really, that tree and the house are 12 miles apart because each one of those inch marks on my scale is really 3 miles, okay? And maybe the scale would also say every 1 inch equals 50 miles. So you would do the same exact thing. I would do, instead of this being 3, I would do 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50, and that would tell me how many miles it is apart, okay? That would be the same thing as looking at a map of, let's see here, like the continents, okay? You obviously could not draw miles on here, so this scale says that each one of these lines represents 100 miles. So I would have to calculate how many miles it would take from one place to the other, just like I did on here, okay? So let's just test that out. If 1 inch equaled 50 miles and I had 1, 2, 3, 4 inches, let's see how much that would really be in miles. 50 plus 50, I have to add it 4 times because I have 4 inches. So it looks like 50 plus 50 is 100 plus 50. So it looks like that would really be 200 miles. So my tree in the picture is not looking like it's 200 miles away, but in reality, in the real world, this tree is really far away from that house, okay? So let's dig a little bit deeper into this, and hopefully I am able to now find my treasure. I kind of have a long way to go if it's 200 miles. I might need to borrow a car or a boat. I don't know. Doesn't look like there's any water on here, does it, from the map key? So here is what map makers do. So people who make maps are really good at not only the land, but they're really good at math too. So they use different types of scales when they make their maps. A linear scale uses a straight line. It looks like a number line or a ruler. A word scale just uses words. That's what I was doing, where it says 1 inch equals 500 miles, okay? So again, if I have 4 inches, I would have to add 500 plus 500 plus 500 plus 500, which would give me that total miles, okay? All maps usually have a coordinate grid to help you find places quickly. The coordinate grid divides the map into spaces. A grid uses lines to make rows and columns. The rows go from side to side. The columns go from top to bottom. Every place on a map is in just one row and one column. Geographers use pairs of letters and numbers to quickly identify a place. And if you ever look on your phone and you type in a direction, it will always tell you the coordinates of where you are located. So we have the GPS, that global positioning system, that tells your phone where you are at all times, but it's based off of this coordinate grid. So let's take a look at one of these towns. So let's look at the city of San Francisco, which is in North America. It's in California, which is right on this coast here. And then here you have your Pacific Ocean. So if we look at San Francisco is located at B. So I would go across the top. It's on this line, B, and it goes across 2. Do you guys see that? So it goes B right here, right on this line, B, and 2 across. It's kind of like bingo, where it's like B1, B4, okay? So let's look at Sydney, Australia. Here's Australia right here. Sydney is located, according to the city index, oops, I got to make sure this goes down, come on, is L5. So I go across the top, find my L, and then I find the 5, and it is right at that coordinates. And if you were to type that into your phone, it would give you a coordinates of where it's located too. It wouldn't be these exact letters because this is just an example, but that is how you could identify. So I could tell somebody, hey, I want you to I want you to go to E4 on your grid, and that is where you will find the location of the missing treasure. So if I found E4, oh, I would have to go here. Oh my goodness. If I said G5, then I would type that in, and then I would know that I would have to go to this location, okay? So it's just a way to find the locations a little bit quicker using this scale and this coordinate grid. All right, so now that you've learned a little bit about parts of a map, you're going to explain a couple answers and answer some questions about the scale. Refer back to the example that I did with you guys. Okay, you're not going to have to map out anything like that this unit. You're not going to have to do a coordinate grid, but I do want you to understand that if it says 1 inch equals 10 miles, well, you're going to have to figure out if they are 3 inches apart, how much that would be. This is just like the problem I did earlier in this video. All right, well, I am going to go get my pirate mask back on, and I am going to go ahead and start exploring and seeing if I can find that treasure, because I'll tell you what, now I have a really good idea of where this treasure might be. It looks like I have about 200 miles to travel, and it's somewhere past that tree. Still don't really know much on here because I don't have a map key, hey, but it's a good start. Again, always keep exploring and don't take my treasure.